What's trading? Getting a stalled economy moving again. We've seen disruptions in the global supply chain system since the advent of COVID-19. The geopolitical immediate future has never looked more uncertain. Today, I'm joined by a global supply chain expert, Shayna Chiara, to share her insights about the way forward. Welcome to What's Trading. My first question to you is, broadly speaking, what is the state of the global supply chain system?
I think post-COVID, a lot has changed, and we're still trying to get into the swing of things. We're still trying to find some center, some balance. It is very turbulent at the moment. China has only recently opened its market again, started trading again. So we have to wait and see. I think this year was a year of testing out a lot of new concepts, a lot of new trade partnerships, and a lot of new relationships, trying to find our footing again post-COVID, especially in an African context. And we need to leverage the work that we've done this past 2 years and see where it takes us next year, especially because it's a big year for Africa. There are many big elections happening. So it all fits into the greater picture.
Let's talk about your micro view and I suppose also impacts at a macro level in terms of foreign policy execution and trade agreements.
I think what's important to understand is that what Africa trades is as important as who Africa trades with.
Oh, I like that.
And currently, our biggest trade partners are the USA, India, the United Arab Emirates, China, and what we're mostly trading are commodities, but it's very extractive. If trade is the lifeblood of the African economy, then trade agreements are the heart. And trade agreements are the facilitators of reduced trade barriers, of increased cooperation between countries, reduced tariffs, just greater connectivity all around. But our trade instruments and policy instruments are not really enabling that synergy across the board.
If we look at other blocks, perhaps from where we can learn lessons, I mean, the formation of the European Union essentially at its core was a trade agreement. Where are the opportunities for us as Africans to learn those lessons of what was initially something that felt like herding cats that has come to have a sense of staying power?
I think we must leverage the sentiment. Africa is the popular girl right now. Africa has the resources. By 2050, 1 in 4 people will be from Africa. We've got a youthful, innovative, dynamic population. We have all the resources. We're perfectly situated geographically to be the hub of trade. So we need to capitalize on that. We need to get the momentum moving forward. I don't think it's fair to compare Africa to the African Union to the European Union. I think a more fair comparison is to take a leaf out of the book of our peers in the global south. For instance, India at the G20 summit that happened recently had announced a new corridor that was introduced to rival or counter the BRI initiative that has been in process or in motion for a couple of years, but it hasn't really gained enough steam. And these are the kind of dynamics that are shifting the supply chain world, the trade world. And I think what's going to happen in the next couple of months, because things are moving fast and swiftly, is that Africa is now going to have to try and position itself in a way where it doesn't lose out on the opportunities that are presented by the India, Middle Eastern, European corridor. Neither does it lose out on what opportunities are presented by the BRI. And how do you fuse without taking sides? Neutrality, multilateralism, these are all key movements that we need to be a part of.
But it does seem, whether we're talking about the Belt Road Initiative or just watching new blocks form, everybody's moving on. How do we make sure that we don't get left behind?
I wish I had the answer to that, to be quite honest. I think we need to capture the momentum. The momentum is certainly now. Foreign policy instruments are very important. What we say, where we position ourselves, who we position ourselves with is extremely important.
Is it realistic perhaps to think of it as a continental perspective rather than perhaps a regional one within the African continent? In other words, what SADC might achieve or ECOWAS might achieve might be a lot more meaningful than trying to herd these 54 countries with, as you say, diversity and dynamism and uniqueness in terms of specific locales. Is that maybe the lesson?
I think we've tried to achieve that for a long time. SADC has not really picked up enough steam to be recognized for its true potential. There's just way too many issues for us to attack, and we've had a lot of time to do to make the changes that needed to be made.
All right, so we are the cool kid at the moment. We now have a seat at the G20 for the first time in ways that we have not before. How do we make sure that, much like we did in the Cold War era, that, you know, we cozy up to whoever wants to offer us business and make sure that that seat at the table is meaningful?
We watch what India is doing and we follow suit. It's about placing yourself strategically in between the great powers. I don't think that choosing sides is very conducive to where Africa needs to go in the future. And there's potential across every block. There's potential across the continent, across the globe. I think we need to start getting ourselves in the right room, talking about the right things with the right leaders.
The talk of the moment is around the renewal of AGOA. Has an agreement like that been good for Africa? And are there opportunities for us to seek similar arrangements with other blocs?
Definitely has been good. I don't think that taking AGOA out of the equation is a very good idea for Africa. No matter what happens, no matter how much tension there is with the USA in terms of our stance on the Russia-Ukraine war. There are definitely more agreements that we can leverage, but I don't think that's going to serve much of a purpose until we get our house in order, we get our infrastructure up to speed, we work out the issues that are happening at the major ports in Africa, we upskill, we focus on downstream processing, we transform our resources, we get our exports up. So these are the things that we actually need to start focusing on with urgency.
How disruptive was the COVID-19 pandemic?
COVID really was the solidifier of all the issues that we had been experiencing pre-COVID on the continent. And then when COVID hit, I think we were just so ill-prepared that the consequences, the negative consequences of COVID just spiraled out of control. And what happened is all the developed countries across the globe started shifting and reshuffling their supply chains. A lot more reshoring and friendshoring came to the fore. And we sort of lost our footing where we once were in the global supply chain. And other options became more viable, more efficient, more cost efficient, quicker, because we don't get things done speedily enough in Africa.
That word from the pandemic, pivoting.
Supply chains have pivoted, and now we need to find a way to get back our mojo and offer some sort of competitive advantage to our trade partners.
One of the things we saw as a result of the pandemic was obviously the slowing down of the Chinese economy and production levels there. Was there a lesson in terms of opportunities we could have taken out of that experience?
100%. I think the biggest lesson is that we need to become more self-reliant, more self-sufficient. We have all the tools and the resources on the continent. There's just an overdependence on the Chinese economy, not only on the Chinese economy, on other economies as well from an African perspective. So we need to do more work to reduce that dependency, and we need to do it now.
We still have the most significant arable land around the world as a continent, and yet we've been affected by so many disruptions, including what's unfolded in Ukraine in terms of our food supplies. I mean, Are there, once again, opportunities that we're just not leveraging on?
Africa has the potential to be the breadbasket of the world. Again, it's just how do we transform our resources into something more valuable? Because there's a lot of technologies that are coming to the fore. And even countries in the Middle East are now starting to grow their own produce and their own crops in the desert, in land that's not arable. So we sort of like losing our competitive advantage on a day to day. So we need to think more innovatively. We need to be slightly more creative than just, oh, we have the arable land, we have good climate, we have the natural resources. The question is, so what? So what? What do we do about it?
How is the AU Trade Commission failing on these matters?
Stuck in planning phase. Always. We just, we have a complex as Africans, as Africa. We just always stuck in pilot mode. We never really collaborate we never really collaborate at the extent, we never really collaborate to the extent that we need to. We always have some amazing paper that says, this is what we should do, this is how we should do it, but we never actually do it.
Is there an opportunity in terms of a potential sea of change? We know that 2024 is going to be a pivotal year politically, with a number of countries holding elections, many of the old guard exiting the political stage. Are there opportunities for fresh idea, bold leadership?
I don't know about the old guard. I don't know so much about how that's going to play out, because it's very touch and go with elections across Africa. You just never know what the outcome's going to be. But what's been refreshing for me to see is that the private sector are getting more involved. So we may or may not get fresh leaders, new leadership, innovative ideas, younger leadership over the next couple of years. But what is certainly happening is an overturn in the private sector. Private sector is definitely getting more involved. Government has actually called for our help from a private sector perspective. We're now sharing our ideas. We're now collaborating. We're now taking the bull by the horns. I think that's going to be the real game changer for Africa in the short-term future, at least.
Because maybe we've looked at this the wrong way around in terms of expecting a policy framework led by politicians rather than business, perhaps even the profit motive, and therefore the private sector.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the longer we wait for leadership to fix our problems, the more extensive the problem is becoming. So we have to start centralizing the solutions and dispersing it outward and hoping that it catches on.
Because in a sense, that's the lesson from the trends of the first world, and that's what we can incorporate.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we can take away from the developed world is that they keep things very simple. We need to go back to basics. We need to understand that we need to make the most of our trade partnerships in a smart way that works for our continent, for our specific development goals and needs. We've seen this done in some of the across the best supply chains in the world, in Norway as well. Everything, like I said before, is a very top-down approach. But most importantly, it's more than just finding a simple solution. It's about integrating the solution into your economy and your economic strengths as a country, upskilling the youth. Most importantly, driving innovation, catching on to the digital wave, and also using the clean energy transition to make smarter decisions that are conducive for the sustainability goals of the countries in Africa, for the resources that support the sustainability goals in Africa, and so on.
If you can allow me some pushback, though, one could easily also say Africa has presented some lessons for the rest of the world in terms of the unique opportunities we've had time and again to leapfrog traditional trajectories and technologies. If we're talking about, for example, banking Africa and the lessons we have learned there, if we're talking about the adoption of mobile telecoms, for example, are there such opportunities that, given our unique position in the world, we can actually get ahead of the curve?
Absolutely. If we digitize our supply chains, that's half of the battle won.
What would that mean?
That would mean getting accurate data, analyzing the data, making sure that we keep adrift with where we're falling short on imports or exports. Like, how can we balance the scales? Which are the modes of transport that are most conducive to the sustainability goals of the country, to our economy, but most importantly, to push volumes out of our port. We need to think about digitizing our processes at the ports and at the borders. That way, we will be able to solve the issue of time lags, time delays. We will be able to save money. We'll be able to trade more consistently with each other in the continent, across the continent. And we'll also be able to offer value-added services to our trade partners and ensure them of our efficiency, reliability, and consistency.
What about this idea that we didn't pollute the world? We are not the ones who are guilty in terms of our contribution to climate change, and that we need to develop our economies first and have that conversations as equals at the table, rather than, as it were, paying the price for those that have developed before us?
I think we've delivered that message loud and clear. I think that message has been delivered on several occasions, especially over the past year, the G20 summit, COP. We have seen African leaders be very vocal about the fact that we will not be able to meet our development goals if we deindustrialize. But that certainly isn't winning us any favors. And it's also putting us in the back foot because we're not grabbing onto the trend of the clean energy transition, because it is a trend. As much as it's a movement to save planet Earth, it also is a business. So as much as we'd like to say that it's not our problem to jump on the bandwagon, it is our problem, because the longer we take to jump on, the more money, revenue we stand to lose.
So what countries offer good examples of clean energy production that we could learn from?
The European ones, of course, but they've sort of developed their solutions on the backs of a lot of other countries, and have had an advantage for far longer than any other country in the world. In Europe, the leaders are Austria, Denmark, Norway, and most of them have actually met their goals. But they have a very different set of problems. We've got to compare apples with apples. Comparing Africa or the African Union to the European Union is completely unrealistic.
But we can learn, say, from Vietnam, for example,
Absolutely.
and the example there of electricity and how that challenge was dealt with solar panels across that country. We're seeing similar moves in South Africa because of the challenges with Eskom. Are there such opportunities for us to think differently around clean energy production?
Yes, we need to do it at home, because we need to reduce the cost of shipping and of getting the components here to Africa and then transforming them into products or components that we really need. Because we have all the tools and innovation necessary here at home. We just need to attract some capital investment in order to get it off the ground.
How could we learn from developed countries in terms of being strategic in our production and infrastructure development?
We need to conduct a needs analysis for the continent. What are our needs right now? We need to do things speedily at our major hubs. Transnet, Durban Port is one of them. We need to start moving things along there. We need to integrate that with our economic goals. We need to find the budget for it, because it is the most pertinent issue in the country at the moment. More than moving volumes, we need to figure out exactly what is it that we're moving. Are we bringing more stuff into the country? Are we producing more? In producing more, we're creating more employment. We're exporting more. What is it that the rest of the world needs from Africa right now? Food security, a big issue. We have potential to create production lines for pharmaceuticals, for machinery, mechanical components. Everything comes back to home. We need to become exceedingly more self-reliant than what we currently are.
It's taken us 15 years to solve electricity. Is Transnet our next ESCOM?
If Transnet is the next ESCOM, then it's the consequences are going to be dire for all of us. I certainly hope not. There was some news that Transnet is now becoming privatized. We haven't heard anything.
We can't
tangible.
solve the locomotives issue. I mean, China is meant to be our big friend. We're partners in BRICS. And yet something as simple as solving a contract around bringing those components for those locomotives, even at cabinet level, we've had the minister travel to China, that remains unresolved.
Yeah. And similarly with the privatization of the port. There's been no tangible output from the port as yet to say it's happening at this date. Look, these are the next steps.
In fact, the Filipinos are saying, hang on, guys, get your act together. We run 32 similar such projects around the world. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, and there's been some pushback from the labor force as well. So there's a lot of strikes that are going to happen over the next couple of weeks. And we don't know how it's going to play out in real time. One of the worries or concerns I had was that it could potentially just be an election tactic or, political tactic to just push out a narrative that, we are going to get things back in order next year. But I don't think people understand that next year is too late. We've got peak season coming up. Trucks have been standing at the port for days on end. Weeks have gone by with minimal bookings. Things are not moving. The country is almost stagnant as far as trade is concerned because of the port.
If you were called into Minister Ibrahim Patel's office tomorrow and you say, right, I was part of a conversation about getting a stalled economy moving again. These are my 3 key priorities. Focus on this and you'll unleash great potential. What would those be?
They've been trying to digitize the system at the port, but it's impractical. I would say go back to basics. Definitely. We need to work with what we have right now in the moment. We have very grand plans, but we must learn to park that off when it's not working. We need to go back to basics at the port. We need to get input from the transporters that are using the port. We need to do whatever it takes to get our machinery and equipment back up to speed so that we can push the volumes at the port. Those are the 2 most important things right now. The rest can be figured out at a later stage. But until we don't get things moving off those ships and onto the road and circling it back, putting stuff on the ships and getting it out to the rest of the world, our economy is at a standstill.
Collaboration is going to be key. With whom do we need it?
With everyone. From an African perspective, definitely more collaboration with African countries, with African leaders. We need to stop politicizing our own agenda. It doesn't make sense to have something like the African Continental Free Trade Agreement being spread far and wide as the golden key for Africa, and then we can't resolve our disputes domestically and we send the wrong messages about our people and how we have intolerance at our borders, etc. We need to collaborate with our trade partners. We need to collaborate with other countries. We need to stop putting ourselves in the middle of battles that are not even ours. We need to think more strategically about what our goals are and find partners to match that can help us match those goals. We need to start collaborating at a micro level, private sector, public sector. And I will say again that there is a lot to be taken from countries in the global south. There are countries doing incredible work, shining stars, India, that we can learn from, how they've executed their foreign policy, how they're leveraging every single relationship that they can to get themselves at the top spot in the world economy over the next few years. So, and they're willing to work with us. Everyone wants to work with Africa. Africa is the cool girl. Africa is Miss Popular.
Well, maybe it's also a case of bold leadership. In other words, there's this sense that we all need to move together, but it's this, it's turning around this ship, right?
There's too many camps.
And so if we have leaders who are willing to break out, who are willing to slay holy cows, as it were, upset the apple cart, that's what's going to get us moving. And we start seeing, hang on, Rwanda's doing something, maybe we all need to follow suit.
I think that we need to sort of find a way to manage all the personalities in the room. Like across Africa, there's so many leaders, there's so many countries, so many viewpoints to take into consideration, so much history, so much volatility. And it's some of these issues that we attack on a daily basis are very sensitive. So we have to find a way to park the past where it needs to be parked, without forgetting it, take the lessons that we need to take, and steer ourselves in a direction where we shake hands with people that we don't necessarily agree with all the time, in order to empower our youth, to keep our people safe, to keep them fed, to keep them well, to keep them up to speed with what's happening in the global sphere. I think it's really unfair that African people are always left behind, because politics is politics, and it will always be. And at the moment, it's taking center stage, and it overshadows everything. It overshadows the potential. It overshadows the resources. It overshadows every positive fiber of the African being is overshadowed by politics. We need to sort of bring that to an end.
Traditionally, the view of Africa has been pessimism and the dark continent. We have this enormous potential with our youth dividend, an exciting future, innovations, things the world has not seen. Where's the silver lining for you in all of this?
Africa is the future. For me, Africa is the one to watch. I don't think that any country in the world can execute its own development goals without the input or backing from Africa. And so that definitely is the silver lining for all of us.
From a 2% share of global trade, this enormous youth dividend, there are things to get excited about. The question is, will we all wake up from our slumber and pull together in one direction?
Yes, but it needs to be quick. So I think we're emerging from our slumber as it is. Like I said, this was a very transitional year for everyone. I think we were still picking up momentum from COVID, and now we're sort of emerging from the challenges that we experienced. There seems to be a lot happening in the world, but we're finding newer, more savvy ways of dealing with it. So I do think we'll find some stability. These upturns and these cycles do happen in global politics, in global economics. We will find our footing. We just need to persevere, have some resilience as well.
In 1948, who would have bet on India? In 1978, who would have bet on China? As you say, the world moves in these cycles, and who knows if Africa is the next big kid on the block. Shayna Kiara, appreciate your insights and everything you have shared with us. What's treading, getting a stalled economy moving again? It's quite clear that Africa has some tough questions to ask of itself, but we are a block of 54 countries trying to pull in the same direction, and perhaps having to work through suspicions and all the competing needs we have focused on in the past. We have a shared future. We need a shared vision.